All right, we are starting week 3 right now, so hopefully you are keeping track of all the assignments and all the drop boxes and all the portfolios and all the discussion posts, and you're keeping up with all that work, because as I said, last week, it will build up fairly quickly, because now once again we have more to do this week that you do want to stay fairly on top of. And some of you are doing an excellent job. Some of you, when I post it on Monday, you're watching the little video on Monday, you're getting the questions done, you're commenting on your peers' questions as well, which is great. And then you're getting the 3 questions that you had to do last week done and submitted to the Dropbox. So nicely done for all those people that are really on track and getting the work done as we're moving along. So very well done. Okay, this week we are going to be looking at, still under the strategies of the environmental geographer, we're going to be looking at the next tab, which says our complex connections. And for this week, it might already be Tuesday because Monday was family day, so maybe you just took the entire day and didn't log into the hub at all, which is great, right? That's what you should be doing. Hopefully you spent some time with your family, even though you're probably spending lots of time with your family right now. So if it is Tuesday already before you see this, it's perfectly fine, because it is a shorter week anyways in terms of the work, because for the minds on and action part, those are just going to be parts that you have to read this week. There's not an activity that you have to do in which you have to hand in to me. There's a couple things that it asks you to do. I recommend doing those things just for practice, but it's not something that you submit to me. This week you will be able to go to the consolidation this week, and that is the one Dropbox submission that I'm going to need this week. All right, let's go through it just in case, just when people are looking at it, they're a little confused on what they have to do. I'll outline that right now. So if you click on the connections part, right, and I'll blow it up nice and big. All right, so for the Minds On section, it's asking you what you use on your day-to-day basis, right? Because this is the environment and resource management course. It's asking you, well, what are some things that you use in your day, right? So what are your daily lifestyle choices and actions? What are the things that you take part in? And it's asking you to set a timer. You don't have to set a timer, but you could if you wanted, just see how quickly you could write them down, but just give some thought to that on, what does your daily life look like, and how much garbage maybe are you producing, or what things are you accessing? At this point, right now with COVID, it's probably a lot smaller, right? Because in the end of this, you're going to be looking at how your ecological footprint has changed, right? You probably did it in grade 9, grade 12 now. Maybe it's changed a little bit over those 4 years. Even though I'm going to say with COVID, maybe it got even actually a little bit smaller, which is the opposite trend of what we would usually see. But I'm going to say, just as a side note, in terms of the world, right, our footprint size as individuals got a lot smaller because even in my household, we were saving like $100 in gas a week. Right, so for all this time, usually it'd be like between me and my wife, $100 in gas a week, where now we get to save that, and we're not putting those pollutants into the world, which is good. All right, so we'll say on a normal 4-year cycle, you probably would have discovered your footprint would have went up, but right now you're probably going to find it the opposite way, as your footprint actually shrunk in size, and we'll look at that a little bit in a bit. All right, so think about this. What is your daily life choices? What do you do in a day? And maybe even when you're giving, thought to that, you can be like, well, we're going to be doing this style for, 4.5 more months. It's like, what could I start to introduce into my daily routine that might be a little bit different, right? Maybe you have had a goal that maybe you haven't started where, maybe you're going to pick that up. All right, for the action part, we've been talking a lot about the vocabulary, and I have been very impressed with your questions and your written reports and how you are trying to incorporate that vocabulary. So I have noticed, and I am very impressed with that. And we're going to continue with that thread a little bit more through this action part. We are going to look at the geographic interrelationships, and you're going to apply that at the end to try to make some of those connections when you're describing your ecological footprint and the things that you interact with. Are they human to human? Is it, nature to nature, human to nature, nature to human? What is the connection that you can make? And when you click on each one of these, it's going to give you an example for each one, right? So read through that, go through it. Read this part, you only have to read through it. So when you click on the steps of studying interrelationships, it's going to give you a little blurb that it wants you to read. Please take the time. I'm going to say maybe it takes 3 minutes to read through that little section. Take that time because it's going to help you later on when they say, I don't understand how I should have written my report. This is what this is trying to help you get to that. So take the time to actually read it. Looking at that geographic inquiry process, we focused heavily on the formulating questions part last week, and people did a very good job to it. And we're going to look a little bit more at the gathering and organizing of information. Okay, so there are 2 videos that you are going to watch this week. First one is on the ecological footprint. Second one is on carbon footprint. Just different ways of describing the same, kind of the same thing in terms of how destructive you are to the environment. And as we said, you did it in grade 9. But this is something, I don't know how many times I've done this in my lifetime. You do it every once in a while to see, are things changing? And you hope they're changing for the better as time goes on. For this part, you are going to, once again, do some of those footprint calculators. I do give you a number of different options for different ones you could try, because some of them have different questions, right? Some of them really ask about travel, and some of them don't ask about travel. And I'm going to say right now, that would probably heavily change what your number is, right? Because it's going to say, if it's factoring in travel, but you're going to say, no, I haven't traveled, it's going to heavily make your footprint smaller than probably what it was in grade 9, where you were like, yes, I do travel a lot. So do that for 2 of them and record some of that information. You don't have to put anything that I've just gone over into the e-portfolio, but just make some notes for yourself. Then we get to the consolidation. For the consolidation, I'm just going to bring it up. This is the main part you're going to be focusing on, which you will in the end put into a Dropbox submission. You are reflecting on your own footprint size. You are going to answer these questions focusing on how does your footprint compare to other Canadians, right? And right now it's actually a very interesting time to do this study, because you can find out how have we decreased the global footprint, because right, this is a whole, it's a pandemic across the world. How has the world kind of shrunk the amount of pollution we put out? Now, you're probably going to get some different things when you research that, because it'll look at companies and it will look at individuals, right? As individuals, our footprints have probably shrunk considerably, but in terms of businesses and corporations, it may say that there is no change, or possibly that certain industries have increased even more and created more pollutants. But I'm going to say on a general global scale, our footprints have probably gotten smaller, right? So this is a very interesting one to do right now, to see how have we all been impacted by COVID in terms of our footprint size, right? So you could even, maybe you'll find even little anecdotal stories that you could include into this. This one's kind of going to be a fun one right now because of the current situation that we are all in. And, just a checklist of things. Did you, things to ask yourself prior to submitting. Did you do all those things? And then just click on submit your work. And that's going to be it for the week. Hopefully you kind of find it a little bit informative doing this one. It's the twist on doing your ecological footprint, because we're doing our ecological footprint in the middle of a pandemic and seeing how that has impacted our overall footprint. One last thing, it even talks about here doing a written, an audio, or a video format, right? This is one of those ones where be creative with it, right? Do it however you want. You could do an interview with someone and record it. You could have if someone could screen record you and your friends having different cells, right? You're doing like a Zoom call or a Teams meeting, and you're all kind of recording your comments and opinions on it, right? It'd be you're kind of filming a group discussion as a way of doing your presentation, right? So just give it some thought, right? I just kind of came up with that one as I was sitting here looking at the screen. Try to do different ideas. And if you have any questions, please email me. And other than that, have a good week. I hope you did have a good day yesterday, or if you're watching this today on the Monday, have a good family day. All right, see you guys.